2, 1.
All right. So, welcome to our third review of the evening. As we take on Deadly Edge. So, once again, we did an interview about this game with the development studio, Bison Kings Game Studio. That was our Wednesday show. If you want to, once again, if you want to know more about the inner workings of the game, I recommend checking that out. So, once again, a brief summation of what this game is. Deadly Edge is a 2D action side scroller. It's not a platformer. There is no action. There's no jumping to be found here. No, this game is.
It's a kind of more exploratory version of like the old arcade beat 'em ups, only with only one enemy at a time ever, and everything is kind of. They said the intent was for it to be kind of like a fighting game, but it doesn't really come across that way as much because there aren't that many options.
Mm-hmm.
It's more a 2D interpretation of Dark Souls. And let me tell you, this is something that's been all the rage on the indie circuit this year, trying to encapsulate the gameplay of Dark Souls in a 2D space. And in fact, it's led to some of the best games we've played and reviewed this year. Hollow Knight's one of them. Another, we haven't reviewed this game, but that's because it's in early access, but Dead Cells was very evocative of Dark Souls combat. And I'll tell you what, Deadly Cells is what this game was trying to go for in terms of combat, but this is, so I'm going to preface this right here and now. This isn't going to be a very kind review because we did talk to the developers on Wednesday, and they laid out the process and a lot of what's going wrong with the game, and that relates to Unity. And like they're fully acknowledging that this game has a lot of bugs in it. Mm-hmm. And not all the bugs have been replicated. Myself and Twilight got hit with the reset bug.
Mm-hmm. I never did, but I didn't play it as long as you guys did, so.
Yeah, I'm like, is this weird thing where hitting the A button in certain circumstances would just take you to the main menu? And they fully acknowledge that is a thing that they're working on. I mean, like I said, it's not an easy thing to say, but it must be said, even though this game is a fully released product, it comes across as a game that's in the earlier stages of early access. Mm-hmm. Because, well, not only is there a lot of bugs to fix because their development process isn't playing well with the Unity engine. It's also, there's a lot of content that they plan to add that isn't there right now.
Which on one hand, if they add it, that's good, but...
Yeah, but that's stuff that's not there in the here and now. And, we can't exactly judge on what might be in the game tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Or what might be in the game 3 months from now. We don't know when it's, it's like, we don't know when that stuff is hitting, but, we don't know exactly what they plan on implementing. Like, for example, they want to introduce canceling into the fighting engine.
That
Um,
would help a lot, actually.
yeah,
Because
I'm like,
I'm going to be honest, this fighting system, it feels like I'm just mashing to win. There feels like there's barely any skill in it at all.
There are like 5 major different things you can do in combat. No, 6. There's an attack, there's a light attack, there's a heavy attack, there's a ducking light attack.
mhm,
The down heavy attack is a sort of downward stab, and then you can, with this right side face button, like the circle button on a PlayStation, I think,
Yeah.
you can dodge through your opponent, which usually leaves them open for a second.
But the problem
And
is you
that's
can't do that while you're, like, you have to wait till your attack animation resets before you can dodge.
right. It's honestly, the whole game
It feels kind of clunky.
the word that I would use for this game is plodding, and that's mostly because you spend a lot of the game walking very slowly at a slow constant speed, and and then you get into a fight, and then you stab the thing a bunch and kill them, and then you keep going until the next thing you have to fight, until you get to a checkpoint, and then your life recovers.
Mm-hmm.
The good things I can say about it interests me that there are, between any 2 checkpoints, there seems like there's usually at least 2 routes you can take.
yeah.
And I just got a bug right here where the enemy AI basically broke. So basically I can freely kill this guy.
Yeah, this happens often. Like, the combat can be decent when the AI actually remembers to be a thing, and you actually get some of that dynamic combat. You know, in, in admittedly limited form, but still.
And a lot of the enemies do kind of telegraph their attacks, and there are I think a decent variety of enemies. The problem is that in any given area there isn't much variety in enemies.
Well, I'd say the greatest challenge actually comes from not the actual individual battles, but from survival. Like, there are, it's like fighting, say, 3-4 enemies in a row will drain your health sufficiently to, like the stretch petty fans here is about one of the only times I actually felt actually challenged in the game because, it's because of the endurance match.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if that's the right kind of challenge they were going for, but it was still challenge nonetheless. And
yeah,
that is,
I was always when I was playing. I'm not great at this game, and I was fairly early in the game, so I probably wouldn't have gotten too much further. But I always was getting pretty low on health by the time I got to the next checkpoint.
Yeah, I'm like, it's like, and that is a big problem with this game. The lack of challenge most of the time, mainly because the AI can't be arsed to do anything.
The lack of challenge, and also the lack of anything to do while you're walking. While you're walking, there is exactly one thing you can do, and it's a kick. And the kick stops your forward motion. And the only thing that I found that the kick can do is it can break some barrels for no purpose.
Yeah, I'm like,
you can also inspect things and learn why you can't go certain directions, or vaguely possibly interesting things about some dead things that you find, but that's more or less it.
Yeah. The sparseness of the exploration.
Yeah,
just like a jump button to do idle jumping while you're walking around, I think would improve this game tremendously.
Or roll. Let me roll while I'm walking.
Roll might break the immersion a little bit, because this is clearly trying to be a slightly more serious game, but I know what you mean. Just anything to do while walking for a long time at a constant speed that doesn't make you even slower.
And I think this is a consequence of the parsing back, because if you go back to the interview, the devs mentioned that they had a lot more planned here. That they had items and stuff, and they basically parted back till all that was left was the combat.
Yeah, if there was like stuff to find in barrels or any health recovery or any different equipment or anything like that, but there isn't.
Yeah, like if I could get a better sword or even health potions, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Just more stuff to do. Like,
Mhm.
That's once again why I go back to the early access designation. By the dev's own admission, this game is kind of unfinished.
Yeah, the other thing that this game is kind of trying to be, I think, it's not flavor-wise at all, but style-wise kind of is like Fury, which is that it's basically a series of boss fights that you go between. But in Fury, they give you stuff to do, give you stuff to dodge in between the boss fights, and then the boss fights are more varied.
And you're also far more agile in Fury.
Right.
Yeah.
But you get what I mean, right? Though they're trying to make every battle significant, and that's fine, but there has to be something else.
Yeah. Well, like going back to the comparisons to like early '90s games, unfortunately, this is the kind of game I would have probably gotten from a relative that they didn't know what it was just a game. Like it's the kind of thing that would have been published by, say, Sony ImageSoft or Absolute. And there probably would have been a license attached to it. It played like I've played this kind of game back in the early '90s.
Like, yeah, I
But
thought this was like a Prince of Persia clone or something like that.
That's
No,
what I expected too.
you know, the game that keeps coming to mind is Hook for like the Super NES and the Sega.
Oh god, I played that. At the very goddamn least in this game, there aren't a series of power-ups that then go away immediately when you get hit and die.
I think we found someone's trigger.
I'm like, that was unexpected. Oh, okay, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
Uh,
It's
like,
a kind of plotting
Yeah.
to be walk forward and then kill the thing.
yeah, I'm like, this would have been this is a very forgettable game back in the day, and unfortunately, I'm like, and there's more bugs that you saw, the glitching in the graphics.
Yeah. Like, is this important at all, or?
I'm like, I encountered that same thing when I got to this section. I'm like, and this frustrates me because the guys who made this game, are
They're
at
nice
least in
people.
our, they're good people. It's just, their development of this was clearly troubled.
And they're using Unity, which is mostly a 3D engine, to do a 2D game, and
right.
it's a game jam idea that got reduced down so that it would fit better in the context of game jam type stuff. So that interview made me feel better about this because I understand where a lot of the limitations came from, but that doesn't mean they're not serious limitations to this game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, I don't think we're saying this game is like total shit. It just needs some extra polish.
yeah.
Like, give us the cancels, give us more mobility in combat, give us something to do outside of combat. Maybe
even if it's just
items.
a friggin' sing to yourself button.
Yeah, that's why I'm using the designation unfinished, because given what they want to do with this game and given what they want to add to it, like I would call this an early access title, just not without that designation. I mean, there's too much. There's too much content that's on the cutting room floor right now. The game has too many major bugs in it.
Yeah.
And this, and to the devs, I'm not enjoying any of this. I'm not enjoying thrashing the game, but by the honest truth, like this game has major issues that preclude me from ever recommending anyone play this in the here and now. Especially since the price of the game is $9.99, $10. I'm like,
you could get better experiences in the same genre for that price.
Yeah, I'm like, I
That seems like it's a good or even a slightly cheap price for what this game is trying to be.
Yeah, if this is
But
a full
unfortunate-
product, I could probably recommend it at that price. But in its state now, no, I could not.
Yeah, like, no, it's like, maybe we'll revisit this game down the line when the developer's intentions truly come to pass, and they've got the game in a state where I am not pressing a button and going back to the screen, and I'm seeing a major screen tearing, and I'm hitting get up to a boss. I don't think anyone encountered this, but I got to the I think like the second alternate path boss, and when I like the
Is that
sound,
the 3 guys on its shoulders, or
there's a creature. He's a guy who manages a creature. You kill the creature, then you kill him, or was I think it was
other way around?
yeah, other way around. Got to him, the sound glitched out, and when I got to the door, it sent me back to right before the boss. When I got to the boss was there, but he wasn't moving.
Yeah, that sounds like a bad glitch.
Yeah, that's a problem. That needs to be
I
ironed
did that
out.
fight fine, but this game clearly has issues that are random depending on your computer and the day of the week.
And also, like, they mentioned the reset glitch. I didn't have that, but I'm also using a PS4 controller, and the devs might think that could be an issue with X input devices, such as the Xbox controller. So be wary if you use one of those, and look to pick this game up.
Mm-hmm. So, the bottom line here is, as the game is in this moment in time, I'd say below average. Avoid purchasing until the major reworkings that have been planned come to fruition. I'm not
But
saying
yeah, I'd say follow updates on this and see if
Yeah.
they improve it. 'Cause
These guys have a Twitter, right?
At Bison Kings.
Yeah, basically, if what you're seeing on screen looks like it could be interesting to you, I'd suggest go follow them on Twitter and wait till, they mention that they have a big update coming out, and then see about getting the game.
Yeah. I'm like I said, we may revisit this. No promises on that end because we're usually inundated with other games at any given time. But I'm like, sorry guys. Really wanted to like this, but there's just too much. There's just too much working against it right now for me to give it a thumbs up. And like I said, I don't like doing that, especially when we have the people on the show. But hey, they want feedback. This is our feedback.
Yeah. And, hopefully our feedback can be used to make this game better.
Right. It's like, so it's not a lost cause or anything like that because they know about where the state of the game lies. And, they're not people who are in denial about the problem the game has or anything like that. So hopefully this game can be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a good game instead of I'd probably rate it below average, not terrible, but even when the game works, it's fairly meh.
Yeah, especially the combat to me is really uninteresting at this point.
Yeah, like the enemies have tells and stuff, but there's not a whole ton you can do to take advantage of them.
Yeah. And also, combat itself is pretty stiff. Like, moving from one maneuver to another takes some time.
Yeah, and also, again, you can't even dodge until your animation has finished.
Okay.
Yeah, even just adding in basic cancels to allow you to be a little bit more able to respond to what the enemy is doing would improve it a lot.
So that's where we stand in regards to Deadly Edge here. I'm like, And like I said, this isn't a review we particularly enjoy doing, but it is our honest review.
Mhm.
So, with that in mind, I think that'll about do it for this week in terms of reviews. The week ahead. So let's see. Should we do MSP first?
Yes, MSP, we will be having Ben Heck of the Ben Heck Show.
Oh heck.
I'm
Eh,
looking. Well, I'm looking forward to that one
yeah,
because I watch his show
yeah.
sometimes.
He does
He's
a
one of the
lot of
guys that
I was gonna say he does
sorry.
like a lot of electronic stuff, like he mods game consoles and make them portable. Does cool things like Raspberry Pis and whatnot. The
He's one of the
actual
guys
single
that
board
he's
computers.
one of the guys that did the Nintendo PlayStation teardown, right?
Yup.
Yes.
He actually made one into a working unit.
Yeah, I'm like that's probably where he's most known from. But yeah, he does all sorts of mods. Like he just did the N64 portable.
Mhm.
Like he took an actual N64 architecture and put it in portable form, complete with cartridges.
Yeah, unlike
That,
some people who use like Raspberry Pis and just emulate it, he actually uses the original components.
and he will complain about those Nintendo security screws.
Greatest thing ever, only not.
Yeah. Yeah, and he builds pinball machines. Um, he's got a lot of stuff going on here, so I'm looking forward to it. Um, as far as Fragment goes, okay, we got another Tuesday interview on Tuesday morning, September 5th. We'll be having Howard Philpott of Bulkhead Interactive back on the program. We'll be talking about their upcoming game, Battalion 1944. And on Wednesday, September 6th, we will be having Chris Avalone of formerly of Obsidian. He's a freelancer now. He works with a lot of people on a lot of different projects. But he had a big hand in making some of the most seminal CRPGs ever. Fallout 2, Planescape Torment, Knights of the Old Republic 2, and so on and so forth. So um, this interview may go the entire show. So keep that in mind. And as far as next week's reviews, first up we have Crash Day Redline Edition. Um, that's that multiplayer car game that Galax was grumbling about the other day. Yeah, we're probably going to do a Friday session on that. And we've got Rock of Ages 2 as well from our friends over at Ace Team. You know, at least that's what on the docket now. Reviews are always kind of fluid, um, but usually when we get about to this time, things are locked in. So that's what we got planned for the next week. And until Tuesday, I wish you good gaming.